I want to show you a picture of two people. The first is Lady Gaga, an incredible musical artist who impresses everyone with her eccentric outfit choices and shows us a new talent every day. The next picture is of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, a former football player, highly successful wrestler, and popular movie star. I want you to think of what comes to mind when you see these two people. Maybe you think of the word famous, powerful, confident, or successful. Today, I want to use a different word to describe them: depressed. Both Lady Gaga and Dwayne Johnson have been battling depression throughout their life. In an interview with Billboard magazine on November of last year, Lady Gaga stated, "I just want these kids to know that this modern thing where everyone is feeling shallow and less connected, that's not human." When Dwayne Johnson was doing an interview with Oprah, he stated, "I wish I had someone at the time who could pull me aside and say, hey, it's going to be okay. It'll be okay." Anyone can get depression, famous or not, woman or man, adult or child. I personally had postpartum depression after my only daughter was born, and it spiraled into a more severe depression that lasted almost 2 years. All of this happened on top of a minor case of PTSD. After those 2 years, my depression seemed to have subsided, but even now I'm still rattled with constant anxiety and depression bouts that sometimes affect me daily. I want to help bring awareness to this mental disorder by explaining what depression is, showing you how it affects people that have depression, and discussing current treatment options. So let's start with the definition of depression. Depression is a mental disorder. According to the Mayo Clinic website, updated July 22nd, 2015, the definition of depression, also called major depressive disorder, is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. The Mayo Clinic also states that some of the common symptoms are feeling sad, empty, completely hopeless, irritability, anger outbursts, even on minor things, no interest in most or all regular activities, always tired and having to work extra hard to do regular tasks, insomnia or sleeping too much, and suicidal thoughts or attempting suicide. These are just a few of the common symptoms associated with depression. This gives you a general idea of the most basic obstacles that someone faces when they suffer from this disorder. So here are a few more facts. Someone who is clinically depressed could have any variety or severity of depression. A few of them are persistent depressive disorder, which is 2 or more years of depression concurrently. Then there's also postpartum depression, which is for women generally after childbirth. And according to the NIMH, which is the National Institute for Mental Health, it affects every person differently, but the symptoms are generally the same. According to NIMH, the most likely causes for depression can be genetic, biological, environmental factors, physiological, but there's no definitive answer as to why depression happens. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, stated that from 2009 to 2010, there were 8 million ambulatory visits as to why depression happens. 8 million of them. The WHO, also the World Health Organization, showed another statistic that states depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. I think it's very clear that from these facts that depression is a very serious disorder that should not be taken lightly. It's very prevalent today, and there's much more research that needs to be done to help those who need it. Now that you know the basics of depression, let's see how it affects the life of someone living with depression. At least a few times in everyone's lives, we're bound to go through bouts of depression or anxiety. This is just a part of life that we accept and learn to deal with as it comes. Imagine, however, that this is a daily battle for you and it never gets better. This is what it's like for a very close friend of mine, Michael Van Soens. Early in life, he was diagnosed with ADD, and then he had to deal with his parents' divorce. As he reached his teens, he was then diagnosed as clinically depressed. There's no cure for clinical depression, only treatments to help ease the symptoms. He attempted to take medications at first, but his body would build up a resistance, and then his body would reject them altogether. No matter how many medications he would take and the new ones that they had out on the market, none of them worked for him. Mr. Owens also discussed in the following about how he felt on medications. He said, "The highs and the lows stop. I would rather feel depressed but have those high times occasionally then feel nothing at all. He also tried therapy sessions, individual and in groups, but once he became self-aware of what the purpose was, it was no longer effective for him. He now does the best he can to manage his symptoms with the support of his friends and his family. He describes depression like this: "Depression is a constant thing. Even if I'm happy, that's the mask." He also stated, "At the heart of depression, it's just a lack of being able to apply yourself to an emotion and process it. Depression locks that out." Stories like Mr. Owens are happening every day all across the globe. People like him who are brave enough to speak up help us understand depression so we can help those get over depression as well. Currently, there are only a few different methods to treat depression, but none have been 100% effective for everyone. According to the NIMH, the most commonly used medications are antidepressants. One type of antidepressant is SSRIs, which are selective serotonin inhibitors, and the other is SNRIs, which are serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. So I'm going to show you an image. It's of an artificial brain, and these are 8 million neurons. So when you take the medication, your neurotransmitters are going to send them to the neurons, and then in this region of the brain is where it affects it and gives you the feelings when you're on those medications. The second method is psychotherapy. They commonly use cognitive behavioral therapy or interpersonal therapy. These techniques help the patient become self-aware of their environment and how they react so they can hopefully cope with their depression. There are a few more last resort methods, such as electroconvulsive therapy, also known as shock therapy. NIMH claims that this therapy has a bad reputation because of the past, but allegedly it's much more safe and much more effective than it used to be. So I hope that you've learned some valuable information today about depression and how it affects people, as well as some of the most recent treatment options available. I'd like to leave you with one last thought. As Mr. Owens said in his interview, it takes a village to help someone with depression. So let's be that village of support and educate ourselves to serve those people that need us the most. Please remember that although you may know someone who's depressed, don't give up on them. They need your support every day, and we owe it to them. As J.R.R. Tolkien said, "Not all those who wander are lost." Thank you.